The car was hailed as beautiful on its debut, and the station wagon was hailed by many as the most beautiful in the world. The rather unusual Peugeot 508 may not have conquered the market, but it currently remains one of the few fresh offerings in the D segment. Are used cars worth considering? What breaks down in them, and what should you expect after a few years? The second-generation Peugeot 508 is conceptually a classic front-wheel drive car. Four-wheel drive is available only in the sporty Hybrid 4 PSE hybrid variant, which uses an electric motor to provide rear-wheel drive. The 508 suspension is similar to that of the Peugeot 308, 3008, and 5008. At the front, it features a classic wishbone supporting a McPherson strut. It has a replaceable end piece with a ball joint, reducing repair costs. At the rear, there's a highly durable and relatively simple multi-link setup. The car features electric power steering and an electric parking brake, as the French manufacturer has extensively equipped it with driving assistance systems. Adaptive LED headlights are also available. By the standards of the time, the Peugeot 508's engine lineup was quite extensive, but it shrank over time. Even between 2018 and 2020, the offerings were simply reasonable. The 1.6 PureTech petrol engine was available in two power outputs, 181 and 225 horsepower. Diesels included the smaller 1.5 Blue HDI with 131 horsepower and the larger 2.0 Blue HDI with 163 or 177 horsepower. Over time, however, common sense and logic began to give way to politics in the powertrain lineup. In 2019, a 225 horsepower plug-in hybrid based on a 1.6-liter petrol engine was introduced. In 2020, a powerful 360 horsepower version, PSE, and a 1.2 PureTech petrol engine with 131 horsepower were introduced, replacing the larger petrol engine which remained until 2021. From that year on, petrol 508s were only available with the 3-cylinder 1.2 PureTech and in hybrid versions with 180, 225, and 360 horsepower. The 2.0 diesel engine was also discontinued in 2020, leaving only the less powerful 1.5 in the lineup. Currently, the Peugeot 508 is available with a 1.2-liter petrol engine, a 1.5-liter diesel engine, and the three aforementioned hybrid versions. For many potential customers, this model has lost its appeal because it lacks a single viable powertrain. As standard, almost all Peugeot 508 models were, and still are, offered with an 8-speed Aisin automatic transmission. Only the 1.5 HDI engine received a manual transmission and remained available until 2020. Which engine to choose? The choice is quite simple, as the 1.2 PureTech engine shouldn't even be considered due to the enormous risk of expensive repairs and poor driving pleasure. The 1.5 Blue HDI diesel is good for those who don't expect dynamic performance, mediocre performance, but care about fuel economy. And they also want to keep the mileage low. A plug-in hybrid is an option for those who have excess power from photovoltaics and are willing to take risks. It's quite economical, but any savings are offset by charging system failures and traction battery problems, not to mention the price. The only viable powertrain options for this car are the 1.6 PureTech petrol only until 2021 and the 2.0 Blue HDI until 2020. Both are dynamic and economical, and it's worth noting that proper handling of the petrol engine yields fuel consumption comparable to the more powerful diesel variant. On the one hand, the Peugeot 508 isn't yet a faulty vehicle. The oldest are 5 years old. But it's important to remember that due to its age, there isn't yet a well-developed market for non-original or used parts. Currently, there are only two engines to worry about. The 1.2 PureTech petrol engine is very risky, and you should even consider replacing the engine if you buy a used car. It has a faulty timing belt drive with an oil bath, which requires constant inspection, timely replacement, and careful attention to the oil and cooling system. More about the engine in the text below. The second engine to watch out for is the 1.5 Blue HDI. It's a good unit, but it has two major issues. The first is a heat exchanger that leaks coolant. If these issues occur, expect high costs. Alternatively, you can look for a used one. The second vulnerable area is the timing belt drive, not the main belt, but the camshaft chain. It is not durable, and in the first series of 1.5 HDI engines, it operated for just over 100,000 kilometers. Often, by 150,000 kilometers, it would fail, destroying the engine. Over time, a wider, more durable chain was introduced, which could replace the old, narrower one. This conversion requires replacing the camshafts and valve cover, among other components. This package costs around €2,500 plus labor. The rule of thumb for timing drive replacement is to replace the complete timing kit, including belt, chain and rollers, which costs around €800. Even a wider chain remains a vulnerable point for this engine. Additionally, this engine, like the 2.0 Blue HDI, occasionally experiences problems with the exhaust gas aftertreatment system. The SCR system fails in the 2.0, but these are not serious faults, but rather sensor errors that can be easily cleared. AdBlue injector failures are less common. Problems with the Eloy's fluid, which helps burn off soot from the FAP filter, also occur. The 1.6 PureTech engine, which is actually a deeply modernized version of the infamous 1.6 THP, raises some concerns. In practice, it's one of the best engines in its class in terms of performance, but it's very demanding in terms of maintenance. It's best to change the oil twice a year, definitely more often than every 10,000 kilometers. It's also essential to clean the cylinder head of carbon deposits every tens of thousands of kilometers. Also, don't ignore error messages or the feeling of the engine starting to miss or stutter. A well-maintained 1.6 engine will rarely cause problems. Little is known about hybrid systems. However, faults in the charging system do occur, including onboard charger failures, especially when the vehicle is charged from photovoltaic panels. This can be caused by excessive voltage in the grid. Another vulnerable area is the traction batteries themselves, which are prone to failure. Independent repair shops can handle such problems. Authorized ones generally recommend replacement.